Well, it's a good evening from Brisbane, Queensland, and our studios in Springwood. And I'd like to introduce our co-host, Andrena Forrest, who's sitting at the very top there. She's just giving you a wave. In the middle is our guest, who happens to be from North America, of California, in fact. And if you want to jump onto YouTube and Facebook for our audio listeners, now is the time. So our guest today is Samuel Chong, and we got a really interesting show with Samuel. And let's start from the very beginning when, as we normally do, we get emails that come in from time to time unsolicited. Samuel was one of those unsolicited emails that came in, but it resonated with his introduction. And as a consequence, I passed it on to Andrena. She had a look. She said, you should have a look. And so together we had a good look-see. And it was almost like a treasure chest when we unenveloped and revealed what Samuel had to say. So let's go to Samuel now, and let's bring why he got hold of us, because it's a really interesting subject.
Great.
Welcome, Samuel.
Thank you for having me here.
Great. Right. So we're dealing with originally you're based in Los Angeles, California, and there's a book that my understanding is Abducted to the Ninth Planet. You picked it up, you've then read it, and then as a result of that, you're inspired to actually reach out to the author, who happens to be a French gentleman by the name of Michel. What's his name?
Desmarquet.
There you go. And you've now reached out to him and found that he was in Vietnam, and you made the trip over there because there was aspects in the book that weren't written in the book, but there was enough information in that book to sort of say, hey, there's a bit more than what's being said here that really fires up your imagination, to the point that a lot of people out there have been fascinated with pyramids, Bermudan Triangle, abductions. I mean, the list goes on, isn't it? So, Samuel, come forth, mate, and reveal all that knowledge, mate.
Well, it is a secret that Michel Desmarquet asked me not to reveal it to anyone else. But what he didn't say was that I couldn't write an article revealing as many clues or hints as possible, so to make it a puzzle. So that's exactly what I did. I wrote an article about the one thing he didn't write in the book, and was informed not to do so. And before I get into that, I like to emphasize that this book reveals all the information and answers that I had in mind. I was questioning when I was young regarding the paranormal and the mysteries in the world. For example, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the Bermuda Triangle, the stories in the Bible, and also other things like where we come from, where we came from, and what's the purpose of life? Is there reincarnation? And really what the government is doing to us. So things like that have been answered by this book. And the answers resonate to me so much that I was so into this book that I believed everything written in the book is real. I mean, I'm a very grounded person. I work with a lot of attorneys, lawyers, and doctors in the U.S. in the court system. So it's pretty hard to convince me if certain people just say, I got such and such channeled to me, or I received such channeled information, or something just got to me. I mean, it's pretty difficult for me to be convinced if someone just says to me regarding those kind of information. But this book is different because it contains a lot of specific and verifiable information that people can look up and explore further. So specific that it's virtually impossible for Michel Desmarquet, a landscaper in Australia, to have imagined such facts and things back in 1993, before the age of the internet. Until he passed away about 5 years ago, he didn't know how to type. He didn't know how to use a computer. But the information contained in the book included like how the Great Pyramid was built, for what purposes, why there's a tomb of Jesus Christ in Shingo Village, Japan, why some people say that Jesus went to India, and why there's no record of Jesus performing any miracles before the age of 20, before the age of 28. And also things such as some people say there are human energy fields, that some people can actually see what they call the auras, and also like information regarding what really happened to the ships and planes that gone missing, that went missing in the Bermuda Triangle, and also the people who mysteriously vanished in the national parks in the United States. So it answered all the things that I was questioning about the paranormal. And so this book is different. That's actually the main motivation for me to track the author down, to find out what else he knew, but he wasn't allowed to write in the book. And I think reading this book is actually the best investment that I ever made in my entire life. Remember, I was an economics major. I studied the financial markets. I learned how to invest in the stocks and shares from the great investment gurus such as Warren Buffett, Jim Rogers, George Soros, and people like those. But I think reading this book is more rewarding and has more returns on investment than any other books I've ever read or any other thing I've ever done in my entire life.
That's a big statement.
Yeah. Can we backtrack a minute? Because I know that your interest was sparked at a very young age when you picked up that book. So can we go back? Because obviously you were born in China. So what sort of young age, were you watching different things on television that sort of suddenly sparked your interest? What brought you to that book?
It actually started from a magazine that I read when I was in China in the 80s, in the 1980s. The magazine's title is called UFO Magazine. It talks about a scientist being taken by this group of highly intelligent ETs into their spacecraft. And then the scientist was informed that the ETs could travel at a speed faster than the speed of light because among the three fundamental theories or principles by Albert Einstein, there's a small mistake on the third theorem or theory of Albert Einstein that people on Earth didn't know about. So that caused me a lot of interest because in my mind, if the advanced ETs, if they can visit us, if they could visit us from far away, they must know advanced knowledge. And what if we just learn from them, their ways of living, their knowledge? We could just advance at a much faster pace. We could get a shortcut of progressing our society, our scientific advancements, and everything else in a much shorter period of time. So I was intentionally and also in my subconscious mind always curious about what the ETs have to say about us.
Amazing. Because I know, like you say, excuse me, the book is a bestseller in China, Taiwan. So my question is, when this book become public over there, and there was like awakening, you saying this is what you wanted to awaken people, did they not have an awareness before then of ETs and timelines and all sorts of things like that? Or you've just come out of the blue, talked about this book, and you've made it a bestseller, and now you've awakened a lot of people up, you've got them a thirst for knowledge and understanding?
Well, there are two sides of the story. China was a little bit more open in the 1980s and 1990s. But in the last 10 or 20 years, it was rather a closed country in which the media was more strictly controlled by the government. So UFO related topics were not allowed to be mentioned by the media. So that's for the people in China. So they really don't have a lot of knowledge about UFOs or UAPs or the paranormal compared to the people in the past. People in Taiwan, on the other hand, they know more about this subject matter, and because it's more a democratic society or country, the media is more open. But even though that's the case, what they perceived in the past or so far have been the just people got abducted and people got taken away by the ETs, or people have such encounters with the ETs and nothing else. They really don't relate to what's going on in our current state of affairs. They don't really teach us anything. It's just an incident. It's just an event that happened. But this book really reveals the meaning of life, how we should respond to the life challenges that we have been facing in the last few years, or maybe into the future. So this book has a lot of benefit or insights on how we should mend our ways or go on the right path. It's actually a suggestion or warning from the friendly ETs to us.
So if we go back again to your life, because obviously you've worked in the courts and you've done all sorts of things, you've done masses of studying. You've just had that drive from young to really excel in everything everything you do, to be of service to help humanity along the way.
Actually, not until I read this book. In the past, I
Right.
was more focused on earning money and make a living. You know, from what I studied, you could tell that I studied economics, wanting to make money in the world. I went to London School of Economics and studied economic history because I wanted to learn what happened in the past, so that what I can profit from the future in the future. I studied financial analysis from the university in Spain, just trying to get into the financial world. So I was really focused on earning a lot of money and making a good living. But then I found out that it's really the market is rigged. The market is really something manipulated by a small group of people. People tend to believe that the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank in the US, is a public organization or public entity or government-controlled entity. But really, that's not the case. If you really study the shareholders of the Federal Reserve Bank, you're going to see that they're actually controlled and owned by private banks. In turn, they're controlled by a small group of financiers. And everything revolves around money because even if you were someone like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, or Bill Gates, it's really nothing to the financiers because they can just print more money and to dilute what Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos have. So you are just not going to have any advantage over those guys. So that actually made me realize there's more to it, and the whole system is actually rigged, and we got to change it. And fortunately, this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, provides a very interesting and very practical solution how we should what we should do about the current system.
So out of all the messages in the book, what has been the greatest message for you that you've been able to share? Because I know there's many messages, and I know that I read the book and I dipped in and out and I reread and came back and I thought, don't know if that sits right with me. And because like we've got many friends that have been on a UFO hotline, that have met ETs, that have channeled ETs. So it's like, you know, we have a great awareness. Lost my train of thought now, going off on the ETs.
Yeah, I think one of the most important messages for most people in the book is to follow your heart, follow your intuition, because the kingdom of God is within you. When God created every one of us, it actually inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of us. So when we really want to connect to God, there's no need to follow a specific religion or to follow the government or to follow a specific religious leader. We can just meditate and pray and to even have a good night of sleep, and so that we can connect to God, the Creator, the Source, the Great Ether, by connecting with our higher self. When we encounter life challenges, the best way to respond to challenging situations is actually to really follow your intuition or just to have a good night of sleep. Because when a person sleeps, the astral body connects to the higher self. When the solutions are helpful to the spiritual growth to the person being challenged, the answers will be provided to the person. So this is why like there is a saying in French, night brings counsel. So when you sleep, when you wake up, you're going to know what to do the next morning. So this is, I think, one of the most useful lessons or information for most people, I think. Because I study economics and also I follow the market, I do believe that there's going to be a great financial turmoil down the road. And when that happens, follow your heart, follow your intuition, your gut feelings.
And that's all you can say to anybody is follow your heart and your intuition, because that is your guide, your inner guidance, and your inner sat nav, if you like. And it's like when you don't know what to do or a crisis is coming back to center. And I know, like, we get a lot of information in dream state as well. And I know I've had dreams about UFOs and ships and all sorts in dream state, which dream state, yes, but on another level, so real, so really, so there. Yeah, Auntie Carol had a question, so I thought we could address that as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Auntie Carol says, I would like to know what was the arrow in Einstein's work. In that Chinese article, it wasn't really specific about it. It just said the general theorem of relativity has certain issues, so that people believe that we probably wouldn't be able to go at the speed faster than the speed of light. And really, that's not true, because in this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, Michel Desmarquet actually traveled with the ETs at a speed a few times faster than the speed of light into deep space. And then when they're in deep space, they actually use what we would call teleportation, or what Michel Desmarquet would call transubstantiation, to immediately transfer themselves to another location in deep space. And then from that point, they traveled again at a speed faster, a few times faster than the speed of light, to their destination, to Thiaoouba. So even though they're like long distance away from us, it only took them like a few hours to reach to their planet.
So out of what, because you've done, I don't know how many podcasts you've done and interviews about this. Have you got an idea of how many you've done? Because I know, looking through your bio that you sent, I thought, my gosh, you're unstoppable on this mission.
Yes, I'm a fighter in that sense. About 50 or 60 or so, and I think James Clear, a very good author who wrote Atomic Habits, he actually did a lot, maybe almost 300 interviews before, like a mainstream media wrote an article on him. So I think I have a long way to go.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I know in the book you talk about that in the abduction he was away for 9 days. So being like very basic, if he was away from 9 days, did he have family? Did they wonder where he's gone? So
Yes. So he did have a family in Australia. He lived in Cairns with his wife Lena, and his wife is still alive, but he passed away 5 years ago. So, and he has two children, Peter and Patricia. And when he was gone, he left a note to his wife indicating that he would be gone for 10 days, and there's absolutely no need to worry about him. When he came back, he told his stories to his family members. His son Peter believed him, but his wife Lena still, to this day, doesn't believe what happened to him. She
really,
she thinks that he was having an affair with another woman.
oh, oh gosh.
Yes.
Because like for some people to read that book, they think, well, this is fantasy, that this is where because you dip in and out of different realms, different planets, and all sorts of things. So for some, I can understand that it's like it's a fiction book, it's a science I can't even get my teeth in them, it's science fiction book. So yeah, so that's interesting that but I suppose if he explained that, as opposed to, I suppose it might be quite hard to take on board.
I mean, honestly speaking, I was also thinking that I was reading a science fiction when I read the book, the first few chapters of the book,
Right.
because it really read like a science fiction for sure. But until I read the chapter on who is Christ, I mean, that chapter really made me believe everything written in this book has to be true, because it really connects all the dots of the stories in the Bible. I went to church, a local church in Los Angeles, Mandarin Baptist Church in Los Angeles. Even though I went there, I didn't believe anything written in the Bible. I thought what Jesus did was just so too incredible to be true. But after reading this book, I believed the miracles performed by Jesus Christ, because it's actually explainable. It's in a very scientific way, and actually the people on Thiaoouba, the ETs, they can do what Jesus Christ did, as recorded in the Bible, as documented in the Bible. Also, it explains a lot of the discrepancies or some of the questions I had in mind when I was reading the Bible. For example, I was thinking, if Jesus was able to perform the miracles, why there's no record of him doing so before the age of 28? Why somehow all of a sudden he became this kind of omnipotent person, resurrecting the dead and also healing people with different diseases, and and walking on water and things like that? And this book also explains why some people claim that Jesus went to India, and why there's a tomb of Jesus Christ in Shingo Village, Japan, that people can still visit and look it up. Um, also explains why when Jesus saw his mother, he didn't call his mother mother. He called her woman. I'm a linguist. I study different languages. I speak Spanish and Chinese and the other languages. Because mother and son have a very special relationship, not a single language in the world in which a son would call his mother a woman. It just doesn't happen. So it got to have a different explanation. And this book connects all the dots and explains all the questions I had in mind whilst reading the Bible.
Mm.
I know young adolescent boys would talk to their mother and say, "Listen here, woman," when they're pissed off with their mother. Anyway, just saying.
Yeah, no.
Hey, what are you
Go
going
on.
to say? Go on.
No,
go.
you carry on.
Hey, let's go to the pyramids, brother. What's the story about the pyramids?
Yeah, so I know the messages from ETs are important, but we also have to have independent determination and thoughts about the messages received by certain people. And the messages received by Michel Desmarquet from this book resonate to me because, for example, when he talks about the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, it says that it's actually built about 17,000 years ago by a wise and learned person from Atlantis called Thoth. In a 9-year period of time, using technologies such as anti-gravitational technologies and supersonic vibrational systems to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner. So they are perfectly aligned so that they can capture the cosmic and terrestrial energy. And the users of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the pharaohs, used it as a tool to communicate people on other planets and also to explore a parallel universe and also to make rain. It makes perfect sense because when the British explorers or travelers visited Tibet in the 1940s or early in the 1920s or so, they actually saw the Tibetan monks using a musical instrument, lifting like huge stones, like a few tons of weight, to the middle of the air. And the musical instrument played a sound that actually neutralized gravity. So I think it's very possible and very plausible that the Great Pyramid was built using the same technology, neutralizing gravity of Earth so that the big stones become weightless. And also they move that in a different, using a different vibrational force, and also cutting the stones using a certain vibrational knife. I think that's very plausible. On the other hand, if some other ET contactees tell you that the Great Pyramid of Egypt was built with or by 200,000 slaves during a 40 period of time, that wouldn't resonate to me to be true. So we have to be a little bit kind of discerning about the messages we receive.
Mm-hmm.
So the
What about
pyramid was built as a collector of energy, yeah?
Yes, it's actually a tool to to capture the energy, and yes, modern scientists also study the structure of the pyramid and found that to be true.
Right. Andrena?
that makes more sense? What about the Bermuda Triangle? Because I know there's a lot of theory that people have gone into inner Earth or Middle Earth, and there is a like a tribe there, if you like. So, what are the thoughts on Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, the mid-Earth and the flat Earth theory and they don't resonate me because I believe the scientists to be true that the core of the Earth is really hot core that kind of is extremely hot. It's not empty at all. And the Bermuda Triangle, according to this book, is actually a parallel universe in a sense that people or ships or planes near that parallel universe got sucked into it. So there are kind of portals or warps in different places on Earth. And I think that in different places on Earth, and the most famous one would be the Bermuda Triangle, but there are other places too. There's an American researcher named David Paulides who wrote a series of books called Missing 411, documenting the strange cases in which people who went into national parks in the U.S. and suddenly vanished. And those are strange cases because when the corpses are found, they're normally at in very strange locations. Um, for example, or in very strange ways, very mysteriously kind of appear in a very strange manner. And when people disappear, they also send dogs to trace the scent, but the dogs won't be able to trace the scent because the scent suddenly seemed to be disappeared in the middle of nowhere. So that actually explains the parallel universe theory in which people got sucked into it. And I think um, people can read either the books by David Paulides or this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, to learn more about it because Michel Desmarquet actually went inside of the parallel universe and saw what it is like inside. He saw people wearing medieval clothes, people like savages, and he was told that in a parallel universe, time stops unless people know how to get out, they are stuck there.
Mm, mm. Interesting. So it's also like timelines, isn't it? Because, some people have more ability than others to go back on their timeline and change things, but also change the future and come back and say, this is what's going to happen. So is there anything like that? What could we do collectively now? Because we know we're on the cusp, if you like, or as to my understanding, we're on the cusp of change now more than ever. And it's just like we're moving from like 3D to 5D, and we're in the process of everything sort of shifting and moving now as we move forward. And there are going to be a lot more changes. So what are the thoughts on timelines?
Well, Michel Desmarquet actually visited the past, and actually he went inside of the Akashic record, so to speak, because according to this book, everything happens on a planet is recorded in a psychosphere that rotates at a speed 7 times the speed of light. So if a person knows how to access the information, the person can actually go inside and to retrieve the information from about what happened in the past. But the past cannot be changed because when Michel Desmarquet visited what happened 14,500 years ago, and he actually saw what happened in a holographic form in which he couldn't really touch the person, but he could feel the vibrations of the person. So the past cannot be changed um, because it's already happened. But the future really depends on our collective actions, our collective consciousness. The future is changeable, and it really depends on how we respond to certain situations. Um, because of this, and because I know the information that Michel Desmarquet didn't write in the book, um, I'm putting a lot of time and effort to spread the messages and to wake people up so that we can change the course of the future, not the course of history, but the course of what we are heading towards. And I think that's going to happen because I'm going to wake up a lot of people, and I think people will be woken up.
And I think with what's been going on in the last 3 years, people are waking up more and more. They have an awareness, well, this is not right, or, what in the hell's going on here? And people are now starting to question more than ever before, which is great, really, because we all need to work together. So what can we do as a collective now to help the planet and humanity move forward?
Well, we can follow the footsteps of Gandhi in India through nonviolent resistance to have a concerted action to rise up against tyranny. remember, like we, the poor people, would lose very little if we form a strike, if we start a strike. It's the rich, the super wealthy, the interest groups, the special interest groups that will lose the most because they depend on us. They rely on enslaving us in order to profit themselves. So if we no longer work for them, if we no longer are enslaved by them, then they're going to lose tremendously. We lose very little because we have nothing to lose. We have very little to lose, and so that's the message that this book is trying to bring out to the people: is that we, the people, have the power. A lot of people say it's just a one person. I'm just one person. I have no power to change anything, but that's not the case. If we spread the messages, if we act together and in a concerted fashion, we are going to change things for the better. And this book actually gives an excellent example. It only took about 4 people to change the totalitarian regime of a country on a different planet into a more democratic country in which everything is based on love and spirituality. It only took about 4 people's time and life to change the entire country of millions of people. So I think it's a very good example, and I would encourage people to read more about it, how things happen on that planet, which is a very good example of what we can do on our planet.
So we also touched on remote viewing, and I know quite a few people that have done remote viewing into the future and even in the military and all sorts, and they've come back sharing different things. What are the thoughts about remote viewing?
Well, remote viewing is possible. I mean, if one can leave the physical body, the astral body can actually travel to as far as one wishes, and he or she would be able to see places or things in far away places. Um, as looking to the future, I think including psychics or people who do remote viewing, what they're seeing are the probabilities of what's likely to happen in the future. Those are just only the probabilities that might happen in the future. What exactly going to happen really depends on our actions, our directions, or our collective thoughts. It's very using a very good analogy is that when we are looking down on the ground, we see ants walking towards a certain direction, and we can see the obstacles that the ants are going to encounter down the road. But the ants, being like in a two-dimensional viewpoint or field of view, they won't be able to see what's far ahead or ahead of them, but we can. And if the ants know about what's going to happen in the future, they can actually intentionally change the direction of what they are going towards and to get around or walk around the obstacle in the future. So similarly, if we know that we are going to be facing a catastrophe down the road, we can just change our behaviors and mend our ways so that we are going to go around the what's going to happen in the future and have a very prosperous and good future.
And what do your family, obviously, because you're so ingrained in all of this, you know it off by heart. What did your wife and your children think about this? Are they on the same page with you sharing?
Not at all. You know, for this interview, I just say I have a meeting. I didn't tell them that I have this interview about the book or UFOs. They are not very encouraging, but I'm still going to do what I have to do because
Mm.
they don't know the one thing that Michel Desmarquet didn't write in the book. No one knows about it. If they know about it, they would have thought about it differently. It's very similar to what Noah did. Like he was told to build an ark, and it's also very similar to what Enoch experienced. When Michel Desmarquet read the book of Enoch, he was so shocked that he believed that Enoch was taken away by the same group of ETs to their planet. Remember, Enoch was instructed to write a book, so there came about the book of Enoch. And a few decades later, Noah was told to build an ark. Michel Desmarquet was told or instructed to write a book. Here came the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. And you can imagine what's going to happen a few decades later.
Mm. Right. So have you had lots of people emailing you or contacting you saying that they've been abducted by ETs and sharing, because obviously there's lots going on around the planet that we don't know about. So have you had lots of people connecting with you and sharing their stories?
Yes, actually, a few months ago, there's a very beautiful lady, a Chinese lady here in Southern California, who shared me her story of encountering the Grace after she got injured in Yosemite National Park in Northern California. So in the middle of the night, she saw this light, and 2 or 3 Grays came in front of her, and she described them as very ugly, but they healed her injuries overnight, and she didn't feel anything the next morning. Everything was fully recovered. All the injuries were fully recovered. And she became very, very convinced that ETs exist. And there are friendly ETs. Even the Greys are friendly ETs, helping her um, to deal with her injuries and also her challenges. And I do believe that the Greys are not evil ETs, even though they look a little bit
Strange.
unattractive. Yes, strange or unattractive.
Mm.
But I think they're friendly ETs.
Mm. Yeah, because I
Well,
thought a lot of people must have reached out to you through this book on many levels. So has there been that many stories that you could put a book of people's stories of sharing their experiences?
I mean, I think this book is very unique, is that it answers all the important questions about life, which is a learning experience, a learning lesson that we should treasure, we should focus on, and to learn spiritual lessons as much as we can. Because when we die, we are going to go through what some people would call a life review process, in which everything happened in our lifetime would be revealed or shown to us in a holographic form. And we would be able to feel and experience how the other people felt when we did certain things to them. For example, if I hit another person, in my life review process, I would be able to feel how the other person felt when I hit him or her. And then if I did the wrong things, I would be extremely remorseful or regretful about it. And I would choose what to learn in my in my next lifetime when I reincarnate. So the life goes on cycles and by cycles. So there is indeed reincarnation. Actually, the concept of reincarnation was in the original ancient scriptures in the Bible, but somehow got removed by the council meetings of the Catholic Church. in the later years. So it's very interesting what the meaning of life is. It's actually a learning experience. We purify ourselves and spiritually, and so that we can move up to the ladder.
I met this woman in Vancouver, Miriam Delgado, who was abducted by the Greys, and then when she was being escorted by the Greys, then the blue Nordic, the big tall whites from the Nordic race came in, and they put her into a ship, and they put her in a chair, and then she was shown all the stuff that these particular tall whites provided with. So she ended up going over to Arizona to the Hopis and talked about the Blue Star Prophecy, which was part of their culture. So it's amazing how there's been interactions with different cultures over the time immemorial, where there's been interaction with people from off-world, So
Yeah, and
have you come
there
across
are,
Miriam's?
yes. And speaking of the different ETs, there are different ETs in our galaxy. At least there are about more than 500 of them or so, just in our galaxy. At least. Michel Desmarquet was shown 147 different corpses of different ETs in a golden doko, like a building structure, when he was on the planet Thiaoouba. And the ETs have visited us throughout history in ancient times. Most of the ETs don't intervene or don't interfere with our affairs. But this group of ETs, the Thiaoubans, have been guiding us throughout history. As recorded in the Bible, actually, the destruction of the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, was actually due to their intervention. And so was Moses leading the Hebrews out of Egypt, and the parting of the Sea of Reeds, and also the birth of Jesus and Christ. And also, they have been involved in modern times or in recent times during World War II, preventing Germany from being the first country to develop the atomic bomb. And also, in that sense, they sided with the U.S. government during World War II because they believed that the U.S. government was more sincere in helping the people in the world at that time. Not sure about nowadays, but during World War II, that was the case. So they have been watching us and interfere when it was necessary. But it is important to know that God helps those who help themselves. We should not rely on the helps of the ETs because just using analogy, when you are to teach your son a mathematical problem, how to solve a problem, you wouldn't give the solution or the answer right away. You would just share the basic concepts to your son so that he could find his own ways to solve the problem, so that he can learn the most, or he can learn more effectively. If you just tell him the solutions or the answers, then he wouldn't be able to learn as much. So this is very similar to what the ETs have been trying to share with us. We should learn as much as we can without the assistance of them helping us, and so that we can get most out of it.
So the old story is teach them how to catch a fish rather than feed them every day.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, let's come back. Our mate Michel, which is masculine because he's French. Just want to get that across. So he was off for 9 days. So his wife thinks he was having an affair, but he's gone tripping through the galaxy with Thiaoouba. So he's come to this planet called would you say, the abducted to the ninth planet?
Yes.
Yeah. I honestly believe anybody watching the show would rivet towards abduction to the ninth planet because it really stands out. But why was there change of name to Thiaoouba Prophecy? How did that come about? You've already expressed that Thiaoouba, if I got it correctly, I apologize if I got it wrong. That's the actual name of the planet.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've also mentioned that Einstein's relativity is incorrect, and so you travel far superior than the speed of light, and then the teleportation thing. So there's also mention, and I think some of your notes about there's 9 suns that revolve around the central sun. So,
Yes.
so it's very hard to set a compass as to say you're in the States and you want to go to Thiaoouba. So in Star Trek, they say that star there, go that way. So whereabouts in what direction of the 88 constellations that we can see from our planet, which constellation are we heading towards? What direction are we going to meet these people from Thiaoouba?
Well, I know a lot of people after reading the book really want to go to the planet Thiaoouba because it's a very beautiful planet, just like a paradise to most people. I would say it would be kind of not very meaningful to visit there because we wouldn't be able to survive for long on the planet because even Michel Desmarquet, having 80 past lives when he went there, he was only able to survive on the planet for 9 days because apparently category 9 planet, a person like Michel Desmarquet wouldn't be able to survive because of the vibrations or for other reasons. Otherwise, he would have been died if he stayed there for 10 days or so. So some people suggest that the direction that people should look into would be the Pleiades constellation or something like that. I wouldn't really spend a lot of time doing such research because when we purify ourselves on Earth by really focusing on spiritual growth or spirituality, we would be able to reach a certain level that we can reincarnate on planet of a higher level, higher category. The other point that you mentioned that 9 planets revolve around a star like the sun, and 9 suns revolve a bigger sun, and 9 bigger suns revolve an even bigger sun until the center of the universe. I'm actually trying to get assistance from astronomers to prove if that's the case, because so far there are astronomers who have found out that there's another solar system having 9 different planets outside of our, or maybe within our galaxy. And I think they're going to find more solar systems like ours having 9 different planets. And I'm trying to see if they can find a pattern as described in the book, so that we can find out maybe the location of the center of the universe. And I think sooner or later we're going to be able to find the proof.
Well, I remember Captain Cook and his 3 boats leaving England and coming out to the South Pacific, and they ended up turning up in Tahiti, and that was paradise to all those sailors who lived in the Victorian era to find all these voluptuous Tahitian women there in paradise.
Yes.
So it seems to me like listening to the show, it's a replay of a replay where we'll make that journey out into the star system and come to the planet Thiaoouba.
Yes. And Michel Desmarquet actually, after he came back, he was in a major depression because imagine when you were shown like a paradise And
I
Thiaoouba
understand.
environment. Everyone was so loving, so compassionate, and then he was told, "You don't belong here. You have to go back and write a book." Imagine how that made him feel. And for a long time, he was longing to go back to the planet Thiaoouba, longing to reestablish contact with the Thiaoubans, with Tao. And even when I met him, he was looking up the sky when I took a photo of him. He was hoping the Thiaoubans, Tao, would take him back. And he really was very cynical about everything that happened on Earth. Um, and he really was someone of a character, and he really didn't want to um, live here anymore.
That makes sense. So you can imagine, being somewhere so beautiful and where people are more compassionate and what have you, and then you have to come back to planet Earth where all sorts is going on. Yeah. So how long after that experience was it he passed? Was it just a few years after?
Well, he came back in 1987. He passed away in 2018.
Oh no,
Yes,
yeah, quite a long time, wasn't it?
yes.
So it must have taken quite a while to adjust, like you say, of that experience, and then coming back here, and living normal everyday life, so to speak.
Well, it's no different to you. You've gone from the UK, you came to Australia. Instead of having 9 days, you had 10 years, and then you've gone back to the UK. So you still got that same memories of, hello, here's that beach in Gold Coast there.
All right, don't rub
come
it
to
in.
me. Come.
It's pouring with rain here, so it's lovely.
I heard a ma. I heard a ma.
Yeah, the sheep are up.
Sheep's out. So, Samuel, what, when you read the book, what riveted you to the spot to say, I've got to go and see this guy? I mean, that in itself is a massive epiphany, isn't it? Of all things, it's a major epiphany to say, I've got to go and meet this guy. Why you, of all the 6-7 billion people on this planet, what made you head off and see Michel?
After reading the chapter on who is Christ, I was convinced that everything written in the book is true. It's really incredible, the information revealed about Jesus Christ that turned out to answer all my questions when I was reading the Bible. But in the postscript, it says there are more incredible things that the author Michel Desmarquet was not allowed to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. I was really pissed, actually. I was really upset. I mean, he didn't write everything he knew. I really wanted to know everything. I wanted to find out what the other secret that he had, because I'm a very thorough person. Because my motto in life is learn from the best and know everything there is to know. I need to know everything there is to know about what he knew. So that really encouraged me to track him down and to locate him. I actually took the chance. I didn't know his exact address. I just downloaded a photo from the internet where he was living, like a bungalow, a photo of his bungalow. And I showed the photo to the taxi driver after I landed in the airport. And the taxi driver took me there. So it's actually kind of happened by chance, or some would say synchronicity or something like that. But I think once I learned about the message, it really kind of changed my direction in life. I was no longer the person seeking for financial gains. I was no longer the person looking to buy more properties or to kind of establish like a reputation or fame as a good Chinese translator or interpreter in court. I was more dedicated into spreading the messages to the people in the world, so to wake them up, because I think they need to wake up now.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask that. So obviously, some of the things that hasn't been revealed yet. Is there anything that you could reveal today, or any things?
I don't think we're ready yet. I can only tell.
Some of us are.
Right, but it's not the. It has to be a more like in a more collective consciousness level. I wrote an article on the second coming of Christ, so that can give you a sense of what's what was written, what was not written in the book, and I can share the link of the article to you when we are done with this interview or discussion. And people tend to read the Bible. Yes, the Bible has a lot of truth in it, but not entirely yet, because I'm a translator. I know that when people translate certain documents, they miss certain things. When people transcribe certain documents, they make errors. So this is what I believe what happened to the Bible. And in addition to the intentional distortions of the original meanings of the ancient scriptures by the Catholic Church council meetings. So I think people should be more careful when they read, or when they read, especially the Revelation, the book of Revelation is probably not going to happen the way it's described. But the rest of the Bible, especially the New Testaments, the four Gospels, people should focus more on the four Gospels.
Because I know
I'm listening to you, and I realised there was a joke there all those years ago where the monks went down into the catacombs, and the guy was crying. I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "The word says celebrate, not celebrate."
Yeah, I agree.
So
yes.
interpretation comes down to it, isn't it?
Yes. I know.
Andrena, are you going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I've lost the train of thought. Go on.
Yeah, I would encourage people to read that article, because knowing the secret that Michel Desmarquet didn't write in the book is not as important as how we respond to our life challenges and how we act together, so that we can raise our consciousness concerted fashion. If you look at what's been happening in the last few years, you're going to see a lot of people are still following the authorities or the mainstream media, especially in the US, in America. Someone like Anthony Fauci, a person with such great scientific background, who is extremely articulate and who is so credible and authoritative, sending messages to the people through mainstream media, telling people to do certain things. That's extremely dangerous in my mind, especially when and if he is wrong about certain things. Remember, only 400 years ago, a lot of people still believed that Earth was the center of the universe. And the Catholic Church kind of burned people on the stake when they disagreed with the doctrines of the priests. We need to be discerning about things like this. we really need to wake as many people up as possible. Yeah.
Hey, so when you talk about the four Gospels, is that a clue in terms of
Yes.
the hidden knowledge that hasn't been spoken about? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and focus on what Jesus said in the four Gospels.
All right. So we're talking about Mark, Luke, and John, and Matthew.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Now, talking about consciousness and how to raise consciousness, you got any steps for enlightenment? I mean, Buddha said had his, and Jesus had his.
Yeah, I think knowledge is power. When you know certain things, you know how to respond to certain situations. For example, if you know how to cure cancer, if you know how to cure diabetes, you're going to know how to respond to the doctrines from the scientific communities or the so-called licensed medical doctors. They try to encourage you to spend a lot of money on different treatments. There are better and more effective ways to really recover from different diseases. I would recommend I would recommend books like Medical Medium by Anthony William, American author who wrote a series of books on different diseases. And that's going to enlighten you how to respond to challenges when you have certain diseases, especially for you and your friends and your family members. That's just an example. And also, when you know that the world is actually not what it appears to be, then you have certain knowledge as well. Politicians, from what I found out, are just puppets in the show. A small group of people pull the strings. In America, in the US, Republicans and Democrats, they come and go every 4 8 years. But there's a small group of people who would get things done in their favor, no matter or it really doesn't matter if a Republican controls the Congress or a Democrat president controls it, or the Democrats control the Congress. It really doesn't matter because they buy or they lobby both sides of the government. So they get their things done. And people need to know about this. So is the media. I mean, if you really look at the media in the world, in China, the media is controlled by the Communist Party of Chinese government. In America or in the world, most of the mainstream media are just controlled by 5 or 6 families. And also, it's a financial system. The Bank of International Settlements is actually the main financial institution that controls everything. It controls or indirectly or directly most of the central banks in the world. And some people say that the Illuminati or secret societies exist. I didn't believe that in the very beginning until I translated another book from German into English called 334 Lies. That's actually an autobiography of the highest degree of chair of the secret society that was founded in Germany. That's actually the Illuminati.
Is that the Thiel? Thiele or Thi? Is it the Thiel group?
The Illuminati.
Yeah, I know the Illuminati, but I mean, was it the Thule, Thule? I think was the group in Germany who were doing all the esoterical stuff and brought forth young Corporal Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, there's some people say that, but this book describes how that young German student went through all the rituals in the Illuminati and how he became the highest chair, the highest degree chair of that organization, how he was able to use numerology and a special form of astrology to predict certain things that would happen in the future, and how he was able to perform different psychic um, rituals or through psychic means to do mind control, and how he was able to really use his mind to achieve certain goals, and how they're able to influence politicians, and the reason for him to reveal all these secrets of the secret societies. And I think that book is also fascinating, and it corroborates with a Dutch banker called Ronald Bernard, who used to work for members of the Illuminati. So that convinced me that the Illuminati exists because there are so many interesting and specific details that people look up to, and also um, can and do additional research. Um, and I think it's really revealing. But it's not the book for the faint of heart, because it's very graphic and describes a lot of torture scenes, how they actually tortured a live person to death.
Yeah. Right, going back to the 4 books, I think Diane shared, was it Luke? I saw it flash up, I forgot what it said now. Was the 4th, it says especially the 4th book of the New Testament.
There'll be John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to really make the point that religion is different from spirituality. And Jesus came here to teach about spirituality and not to establish a religion. Religion is organized by people who may have different intentions. I didn't know, until a few months ago, when someone told me that the Catholic Church is the wealthiest religious organization on earth. I didn't know about it until someone enlightened me on that point. We can connect to God on our own without the religion or religious leaders acting as an agent or intermediary.
Yeah, you don't have to go through a middleman, do you?
Right.
The direct phone call. Hey, I just lost that. I was saying about the Club of Rome there for a minute. Club of Rome. Let's move on. I just lost it. Go on. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, and there are a lot of secrets that's being hidden by the Vatican. For example, I can give you just one example. Astrology, the birth chart of Jesus Christ. So when people draw the birth chart of Jesus, they are never able to draw like a chart that looks like the Son of God. But kind of a well-known astrologer in the U.S. called Paulo. Yeah, I just call him Paulo. He received a very mysterious phone call one day, and that guy on the other line told him a date and a time of birth. That's AD 28, March 28, in the year AD 28 at 6 a.m. And he asked the person on the other side of the line, "How did you get this information? That's supposed to be the real birth or the birth time of Jesus." And that person said, "From the Vatican records." And then this astrologer drew the birth chart, and it turned out to be a chart of perfection, a birth chart of a perfect human being. So there are a lot of secrets that the Vatican hasn't revealed to us yet.
They're little by little things are being uncovered and being exposed, and people are finding out more and more what is the real truth as opposed to what we've been led to believe.
Exactly, especially from the Vatican, the Catholic Church.
So I have to assume then that 6 a.m. to 28th of March in the year 28 was in the location of Jerusalem or Bethlehem, or
Yes, Bethlehem.
right? Okay.
I can show you the link. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. So we had that lady from Florida who did the 13 star signs, wasn't it? That was really fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let me present to you. I don't know if I can present.
That's all right.
Share screen.
So in the book there, what subject have we not covered, Samuel?
About 95% of the book has not been covered yet.
95. So we should be opening the book to the book of Samuel. Yeah.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the birth chart. It's actually the 28th of March, 28th, the Julian calendar. The time is 5:40 a.m. in Bethlehem, Israel. So this is the birth chart that he drew. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So I can share the link to you when we are done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, hang on a sec. Oh, hang on. Oh, you take it out, did you? Oh, shit, sorry.
I took it out, yes.
No, sorry. I was just putting that underneath it.
Actually, I can put a link to the private chat. You can forward it to the public chat.
Okay. Hey, okay, so 95% of the book we haven't actually covered. So next question really is, obviously you found the book as the Abduction to the Ninth Planet, and you got it at Amazon. I take it the book is still on Amazon, and what's the current price structure for that?
Well, the book is still on Amazon and under the title Thiaoouba Prophecy, or people can search the original title Abduction to the Ninth Planet. It's currently selling for $20 or so, $20 US or so.
Yeah.
But if people really cannot afford it, they can go to the library or search online. I don't get any financial profit from selling the book, and people can look it up on the internet as well. And the audiobook will come out in about a week or 2 weeks or so.
Oh, true.
Okay. Oh, so that's ready to print, already printed and ready to be on the market?
Yes, in about a week or 2 weeks or so.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close up today?
I really would like people to gain knowledge from reading this book, because this book contains a lot of knowledge that is going to be extremely beneficial to you, your family, and your friends, especially given the fact that it tells a lot of the things related to our health. It talks about the human energy field, or the auras. It talks about the importance of colors, and also sound vibrations, and the dangers of noise, and dangers of hallucinogenic drugs. I think if you read the book, you're going to be highly rewarded by the knowledge.
Okay, well, that's been amazing. Thank you for sharing so much, or so much of the whole, or maybe not so much of the whole, for sharing, what you've shared today has been very fascinating, very interesting, and well done to you for getting it out there. And it's like, we could meet somebody else in a few weeks who's on a similar journey, who's been to a different planet, to come back with more information to help humanity. So it's thank you very much for sharing.
And thank you for having me here.
It's very
been our
brilliant,
pleasure.
Samuel. Yeah, awesome. Just put you over here. Put Andrena there. Oh, hang on. So there's so many comments here. They're coming through now. It's always the way, isn't it? Finishing off. There you go.
You're doing a great job. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Stay online, brother, and then we'll just go back to normal radio station programming.